I wish that young people would be more involved when it comes to local policy. I think right now we're in this time where we're seeing a lot of people speak up, a lot of young people speak up and organize around bigger issues happening, especially at the federal government, which they should continue to do, right? Young people must stay engaged locally because it's a trickle-up effect, right? If you're engaged locally here at the city council, at the city level, then you can become engaged at the state level, and then you'll become engaged naturally at the federal level. And so I really see it as something that young people should be doing, right? Because it is the policy that we feel directly.
Hey Wildcats, my name is Nicole Camacho and you're listening to UAZ Podcast. I'm here with my colleague, Rebecca Ursule. We have a very special guest, Eddie Barron. Thank you so much for coming on. Can you please introduce yourself, tell us what you do, what you're majoring in, and if you're in any clubs or extracurriculars, please?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name's Eddie Barron. I'm a senior at the University of Arizona. I'm studying Public Policy and Sociology, and I serve as a student body senator for the undergraduate student government.
Thank you so much for sitting down and talking to us, but also inspiring students here at the U of A. So there are so many young people who don't realize the impact they already have. What are some ways you've seen young people influence their communities that often go unnoticed?
So I was born and raised in Tucson, and I think historically Tucson has a very rich history when it comes to like activism, and especially young people in the city being activated. I think one of the core memories of this activism for me was freshman year. I was able to see what the activism looked like freshman year. I was a part of this Why I Ride campaign, which advocated to keep public transit in Tucson free and accessible for all people. And really, there was, a bigger, broader group already doing that work. But it was so cool being able to be a part of a group of students on campus that were really committed to organizing and engaging with local government, right, with some city officials, as Tucson City Council, to make sure that we kept public transit free because we saw it as a good that everyone deserves no matter what, right? We saw that in keeping fares, made it so that people who couldn't afford a car or couldn't afford Ubers every day or couldn't afford, that any type of mode of transportation were able to have it there.
Yeah, me and Rebecca were student senators at Pima, and whenever we would table, especially when I would table, students would come up to me and talk about free public transportation, and which was a very big problem. I didn't even know that lots of students use public transportation.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, I used public transportation. I saw my mom growing up use public transportation. And I think when you actually ride the bus, you see that a lot of young people, it's a lot of young working people and elders, of course, using and utilizing that service.
The other project that I did work on when I was a student senate was also concerning transportation, but specifically it was on bicycle.
Yeah.
And I really never knew that students use bicycles coming to school from a very long distance.
Yeah.
And one student came up to me and was like, "These roads are not safe, Rebecca. We're gonna die."
No.
So it became a whole project that I was working on as a student senate.
Yeah.
And it's only when you are involved that's when you realize those issues specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bike rider too, right? I commute using my bike sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think students are really engaged in the conversation when it comes to how do we build out better infrastructure throughout our city so that it meets the needs of bicyclists, right? Folks who are walking, folks who are taking the bus, not just people who are in cars, which I think it's awesome that people are doing that.
Adi, I'm really okay, I don't know how I'm going to word this, but I really love the work that you're doing, getting involved at a very young age. And one thing that I learned is that you started your advocacy work at the age of 14. Advocacy is something that I love. I just want to finish school and I start the whole project about advocating for specific issues in different communities. So what's really sparked your involvement at an early age?
Yeah, I think, I was raised by a single mom, and I think really seeing firsthand the hardships that she faced, right? This was somebody I loved who was working 2 jobs and still, having a hard time staying afloat. I started questioning why. Like, if you talk to any of my family members, they will be the first to tell you that I was always asking why. I was always wanting to know the reason. I had all these questions. And then when I really got to high school, at the age of 14, right, I was really able to connect the dots, that it was a direct result of policy, that the reason why people's lives were so hard was because there was this group of people making decisions about it. And so I think, just growing up and seeing how hard it was for my mom, I started to really understand that that was a policy choice, that it's a policy choice why people struggle.
And that motivates me a lot to strive so much and be in the policy decision-making process, because at one time I was telling somebody, you look at the police like on the road doing the stuff, the patrol and everything. It's just because somebody sat somewhere and made all those policies.
Yeah.
And if it affects the people, why? It doesn't matter because somebody just made the policies. They don't know how much it affects others. And I'm like, why can't I be among the people who make these policies?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so it really motivates me so much. But now we have another question for you. When it comes to local and state policy, where do you see gaps that might not exist if more young people were actively involved, mostly here in Tucson?
Yeah, I think, I really believe that local policy, whether it's, you're at the city level, at the state level, is the policy we feel firsthand, right? That is what we, drink. It's the water we drink. It's the roads we drive on. It's whether or not we have public transportation. And I think some of the gaps that I see is like, I wish that young people would be more involved when it comes to local policy. I think right now we're in this time where we're seeing a lot of people speak up, a lot of young people speak up and organize around bigger issues happening, especially at the federal government, which they should continue to do, right? But I also think that young people must stay engaged locally because it's a trickle-up effect, right? If you're engaged locally here at the city council, at the city level, then you can become engaged at the state level, and then you'll become engaged naturally at the federal level. And so I really see it as something that young people should be doing, right? Because it is the policy that we feel directly.
Yeah, you got involved so young. 14 is super young. Was there like an influence that influenced you to start at such a young age?
Yeah, it was like I said with my, seeing my mom, struggle growing up and seeing so many of my neighbors and so many of my friends' families struggle also. It wasn't just a unique experience. It was something that a lot of people in my community were facing. But also, the reason why I got involved so young was because it's actually a funny little story. So, in high school, we would have football games and people would cross the street and a lot of people were getting hit with cars because it was dark, there was no crosswalk. And so I think from there, it was me and a group of a couple other students, took it to the district and said, hey, we need a crosswalk on this street. Students are getting hit by cars. We want better conditions for our friends. And, we partnered with the Ward 5 City Council office, it was Richard Fimbres at the time, council member Richard Fimbres. And that was my first experience of like, I saw a problem, I wanted a solution, so I took the necessary steps to create one. And it was really fascinating. It was such a fun experience. I didn't think of it at the time, but now I look back and I'm like, whoa, that led to me really, being involved the way I am, right? I work for the vice mayor's office and that's an amazing experience in itself. And so, it's crazy how that one experience really led me into this journey of really fighting for stronger solutions for all of us.
Is there a project that you're working on right now or something that you're looking forward to in the future? Yeah,
so there's a lot of, you asked me what projects, I can give you a list of them, but when it comes to like the work I'm doing at the city level or the work I'm doing here on campus as a student body senator?
Both.
So for student body senator, I'm working right now on a resolution that would fund the Daily Wildcat, a position. It would fund a position in the Daily Wildcat that would hopefully allow students to understand what's happening at the federal government a little more. I think the reporting with the Daily Wildcat is amazing, right? It's students, writing for students. And I think right now there are some gaps of knowledge that the student body has on what's happening at the federal government, some of the decisions that the federal government's making. So really trying to the funding would really try to bridge that gap, right? And make sure that there is a student reporter who is, reporting in a digestible way for the student body, some of those updates. And then on the city level, like I mentioned, I have the honor and privilege of working for Vice Mayor Lane Santa Cruz, and I serve as in a comms position in her office. But something that has really shown me the power of people, the power of our neighbors, has been an initiative that she's leading called Budget de la Gente. It's a participatory budgeting process that allows community members, young people, to have a say in how a portion of the city budget is spent. And so being able to see this process, it's on its 4th cycle now, on display, and being able to see people have a real say in what their money goes towards, right? What programs we're funding, what nonprofits we're working with, what solutions that the city and specifically Vice Mayor Lane Santa Cruz is bringing, has been an amazing, amazing project that I've been working on, but also it continues to grow, right?
I think it's amazing what you're doing with Daily Wildcat. Lots of people don't know what's going on with the federal government, which is so sad. And I think it's amazing that you're trying to get the word out with the Daily Wildcat. Lots of students read that, and I think it's amazing with what you're doing. Our next question is, how do you wish young people in Tucson would continue to participate in civic life and beyond voting?
I think I also volunteer on a campaign right now, and I've been going door to door. I knock on doors, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" What
has that been so far?
What are the issues? It's been a lot. I think people are feeling the high tensions that everyone across the country and across our communities are facing. But when I talk to these people, right, I think they understand what issues they're facing, and they know what the problems are, and they have the solutions, right? Everyday people have the solutions. And I think I talk to people and I run into people who say, "Oh, we're voting again? There's another election again."
I know, they're always complaining.
They're always here. No, but it's true. There's always an election. But what I remind people is it's a memory. It's a muscle memory, right? Being engaged civically is a muscle memory that we must continue to flex and work out, right? And so I think it's more than just voting. Voting is the least thing that we can do. And that's something that our county recorder, Gabriela Cáceres-Cali, says all the time. Voting is the least that we can do, right? I think staying engaged locally by attending city council meetings, by going and becoming, joining a nonprofit organization that, whose cause is something similar to yours, right? But also finding people and making connections, and then following up on those connections, and just figuring out how you can help each other and how you can be in community right now. That is staying civically engaged, right? So I think it's a multitude of things, but certainly just staying in the conversation, and also bringing that conversation and what you learned back to your families, back to your communities, back to folks who may not have the time, right? It's something I do with my family, and so that they can also be engaged in some way.
Are there some organizations here in Tucson that are helping the young people to get politically engaged, kind of empowering them to be at the seats sometime in life?
Yeah, I think there are some organizations doing that important work. I think Tucson is a fantastic city when it comes to just getting people out, period, right? I think people get political when they are connected to other people, and they're connected to the issues, and they start to, put two and two together, that everything is inherently political. So I think, for example, and why I say this is because there may not be direct organizations doing that work that I know of, but there's organizations like Fuga Tucson. Fuga Tucson is a nonprofit organization that allows for families to come together and ride their bikes together. And through that, you're able to see that some of these roads aren't safe or bikeable, right? There is a real problem with, transportation and the ability to bike safely in this city. And so through that, they've been able to advocate for better conditions for bicyclists and for different transit alternatives that would better serve our communities. And so I think you become political by getting connected to issues. And if you're able to connect to issues, then you're engaged already.
I think you mentioned something. I was wondering, because I can't fathom how young you started.
I know.
So when you were like, let's say like 5 or 6, did you ever think about becoming president of the United States, or were you more thinking about being a police or?
No, I always wanted to be a teacher. Yeah, that was like my
Okay.
dream job growing up, and my mom has some funny stories about that.
Okay.
At my nana's house, she had an extra bedroom, and she set it up to be a classroom, and I would make all my cousins. I would make all of my cousins, play school with me. Like there's a lot of funny family stories about that. But yeah, I really, from a young age, loved teaching people, but also like learning from others as well. And so, I think. Yeah, definitely not, politician and policy. Work was not the vibe. I didn't never wanted to be president of the United States. I probably would never be president of the United States, even if I could. Because, yeah, I think that's what kind of makes my role in all of this a little more special, right? Is like, I don't have this nag to be a politician. I just want to solve problems.
Yeah.
And that's been guiding me my whole entire life ever since I was young. When I was young, I was a problem solver. And I think now, it would be better if we had more problem solvers in these positions, right, of leadership, of different levels that, so that we can actually solve the issues that people are experiencing.
You mentioned you're on the school board for Sunnyside.
I'm on the Sunnyside Foundation board. So it's a little different from the school board. What the foundation does is raise money for Southside students, families, and teachers. So through that, we were able to start an emergency relief fund. So I grew up in a lower income school district, and not every student and family had access to, additional resources like counselors, but also some of them can't even meet their basic needs, right? Some of them have trouble paying rent. So through that fund, we were able to provide cash assistance, pay some utility bills. We also do like food box distributions, but we also invest in teachers by creating a mini grant classroom fund. There's a lot of different layers to what we do. And so it's a little different from the school board. We're not governing the district, but we are an extension of it by providing additional support to all of Southside families.
That's amazing. Yeah, I had a lot of teachers growing up, and they would pay from their own pocket, pencils, notebooks, and everything. So I think that's what you're doing is so amazing, and I love that.
Thank you.
For young people who feel frustrated or unsure about where to start, what advice would you give them to make their voices heard in local policy?
Yeah, I would give them a couple pieces of advice. I think, show up. It's important to just be there. I think find what you're good at. Really figure out what your nag is, what is a skill that you can bring to the table, and run with it, right? Be that person who can extend that olive branch of a skill. We are going to need people with diverse skills, with diverse experiences, especially for some of the fights that we're going to be facing pretty soon and already are. So I think find what you're good at, stay involved, be angry, but do something with it. And that would be the advice that I give.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful because most people are always angry at issues, but they don't do anything with it.
Yeah, I'm like, do
so
something.
being angry and do something with it. Yeah, so have you ever changed your major before or no?
Yes, so I came in political science.
Okay.
And I was kind of like, I looked next to me, and I'm like, okay, everyone here wants to be president of the United States. No, but I was kind of like, not really my vibe. It's very similar to the major I'm doing now, which is public policy. But I feel like with public policy, I get to actually dive into, actual policy issues, right? I feel like the vibe I got was like political science. You were more learning the art of politics rather than diving into policy and Which it can also lead you to public policy as well if you go that route. Yeah.
But okay, the reason as why I asked that question is like, when did you realize that you want to do public policy? Because I've seen students who have changed their majors 3 times.
Yeah.
4 times.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
Right? I'm team do what makes you happy, right?
Yeah.
I think it's okay to find new passions. I certainly have. Even after selecting public policy as my major, I've definitely, I'm obviously doing communications at the vice mayor's office, which is something I'm like, oh, I should have done communications. But I think it's okay to and do other things than what you're majoring in. As long as you're staying intentional about why you're building that skill and staying true to the work of your major, I feel like it's okay. Yeah.
I know a lot of people who studied and got a bachelor's on a whole different thing that they're currently doing right now.
Yeah. It happens. But
That's what most people say, be flexible.
Yeah.
Because you just never know how the world will change.
No, 100%.
So what do you currently do with the student senates here at the university?
Yeah, so the student body senate is responsible for passing legislation that benefits students. And so I think over the past couple of years, they've had a hard time in figuring out what that looks like, right? Because we're students, we're trying to, we're also going to school. Some of us work extra jobs, so we're all trying to figure out, what does it look like? And so when you look at things like the campus pantry, campus closet, those were students' body senator initiatives in the beginning of their creation. And so I think I always mention that because I feel like that is a prime example of the power of the student body senate. And so I think our responsibility is really to advocate for the needs of students, right? To pass resolutions that benefit students' lives and that improve their lives, and to be the voice of the student body as a whole.
Okay, that's great. Do you guys have conferences that you go to outside Tucson and meet other student senates?
No, not really. It's mainly, I think more the executive leadership does, certainly, but I think it's ours, we're very grounded here on campus and in making sure that we're connecting with our students that we serve and things like that.
And which one has been your favorite moment so far in the body? Because you've served, I think, for 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years. So,
Oh
freshman year I served as the chief of staff for the student body president then. Sophomore year, I served as executive vice president, and this year I serve as a student body senator at large. My favorite moment has been really connecting with people. I think, during my sophomore year, I oversaw, 400 plus clubs. I got to, really get to know that class of student body senators really intimately and work alongside them to, solve problems. And I think really just it's the people that make these places great, right? And so really just getting to interact with them all the time is my favorite, but certainly all the work that we've done too. I mean, during my time as executive vice president, we stopped threats of fee increases for students. We pushed back on, the university's ways of kind of moving without us sometimes. And so that was also really great.
So what can you tell a freshman who wants to join student senate?
Do it.
I really don't know where to go.
Get involved with ASUA. It is a flawed organization, but also one that needs students and students' perspectives. And so I think join it, change it, and just go get them.
Is it a hard job? Do you do a lot of policy work?
It's not super hard. It is what you make of it, right? I think these rules are important because you're a student making decisions for other students. So it's definitely what you make of it. It's definitely a time commitment, right? But it's all skills that you're going to need to know sometime in the future. So I feel like it's definitely worth it.
So how does it feel like to work with the mayor of Tucson?
Yeah, the vice mayor of Tucson?
Yeah, the vice mayor currently.
Yeah, I really have a lot of respect and admiration for the vice mayor. They lead with such purpose and such a vision for better circumstances and better conditions for our communities that every day I get to work with them is just the biggest privilege ever. And so really grateful for everything that they've been able to teach me through this experience.
That's great. So do you have any last tips that you want to leave with the young people who are really, they really want to get involved and change their neighborhoods? Yeah,
I feel like it's easy to do that. It's a lot of work, but it's also really easy to get involved and to figure out what it is that, needs to be made better, because there is a lot of things that need to be made better. So
thank you so much, Eddie Barron, for coming on and talking to us. And I want to congratulate you for your graduation December.
Thank you.
I can't wait till all your successes come true.
I appreciate you guys both.
Thank you so much.
Thank
we appreciate your time. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you.
And we got to learn what you're doing and inspiring other young people. It's so great that you started at the age of 14. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, I cannot fathom.
So that's really great.
Thank
and
you.
we hope that you continue to impact Tucson and beyond.